ask yourself the damn question. Is winning the only thing to you?
Sports today are not just played on the field. They're played every day, online, all over the world, by sports fans just like you.
Don't you dare breathe. That won't get you anything. If you don't think you're a winner, you don't belong here.
Fantasy Sports puts you in control of your own team. The Nick Bonsanto Show is proud to present the Star Fantasy League Show. Find out who to sit, who to start, how to play, and have your daily fantasy sports questions answered with your host, Jonathan Sprung, co-hosted by SFL CEO Zach Stanley and SFL COO Seth Young. The Star Fantasy League Show, on the air.
Make this game your finest hour.
Now.
Hello and welcome to the Star Fantasy League Show here on the Sports Byline USA Network. I am your host, Jonathan Sprung, joined as always by Star Fantasy League CEO, Mr. Zach Stanley.
NBA Thursday, baby.
And NBA Thursday, where there's two games and they all matter.
Unfortunately, clearly this game was all planned about Kobe Bryant actually being active.
Yeah, before they do the schedules, they're like, oh, this is going to be a good matchup. Let's put this on TV.
Lakers.
No. Another disappointing thing that showed up is COO Seth Young's here. Hey, Seth.
Now I'm a thing?
Well, yeah, pretty much.
Thanks, Donald. That's how we look at you.
We have to be as nice as possible to you
Mr.
today.
Thing.
That's a little weird, man.
Why?
There's not much going on in sports today. We have the two games for NBA. A lot of interesting announcements and things going out. So we're going to talk about a lot in the first segment of today's show. We're going to be all over the map. A little fantasy, a little interesting stuff. Let's start out with, remember how we talked about 2 days ago, the Richard Sherman audio, and when it would come out, it'd be this great thing we'd all talk about. We talked about it for 10 minutes the other day, how it was going to be mind-blowing. Seth, what happened?
Well, we heard hell of a game.
Yeah, that's in reference to when Richard Sherman went over to Crabtree after he broke up the game-winning pass interception, and tapped him on the butt and got punched in the face, basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, come on. If you're Michael Crabtree, 10 minutes later, he probably has a different reaction, just like Richard Sherman does if he's giving an interview. And I think that, Michael Crabtree probably reacted like most of us would. It's like, come on, my team just got knocked out of the Super Bowl. My season's over. I'm not getting the Super Bowl bonus. Get out of my face, man.
He was prompting that reaction for sure.
Yeah,
he
he
knew he was going to get that reaction.
Yeah, I felt like it's just, if you're Crabtree, it's just like, yeah, get out of my face. Like, why are you talking? Like, if anybody came and talked to him, even as a teammate, he'd be like, get out of my face.
Well, he was awfully crabby, wasn't he?
See, this is why we call him a thing, because he does things like this. Thank you, Seth.
Jokes that disappoint the audience.
Yeah, if you guys are listening and you don't like these jokes, please tweet at us at SFL Show. We love to hear how you feel about Seth's lovely puns.
Nobody's going to tweet at us because everybody loves my jokes.
Sorry, if you love Seth's jokes, tweet at us. Oh, nothing. I see crickets.
Whatever, man. You guys are awesome. You guys all love my jokes. I know you do.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Moving on to another thing that is just strange and disappoints me in many ways, much like what we just talked about. How about this Pro Bowl thing? They wanted to switch it up. They wanted to be interesting. Roger Goodell, sure, let's make the Pro Bowl rosters not AFC, NFC. Let's make two Hall of Famers pick.
Yeah, the NHL's doing it, so it'll work out just fine for us.
Okay, NHL's cool because I'm pretty sure everyone in the NHL hates each other.
NHL is cool. And the NFL is just so desperate at this point. I mean, the Pro Bowl has to go. Did you see these pictures of these guys? They're just sitting around on couches, lounging. Somebody was looking out at the water.
No, it's fantastic. If I was at the Pro Bowl, that's exactly what I'd be doing.
Okay, here's the thing that really makes me just confused as all hell about this. For the Pro Bowl, they're eliminating kickoffs. But they have special teams only players that they selected to the Pro Bowl.
Well, some would say that both of those teams are special teams.
See, this is why he shouldn't be on this show.
It's another one.
Yeah, coming up next week, a two-man show.
This qualifies as Seth being on a roll, which is never good.
I'm on a roll, guys.
It's certainly not a fantasy role, we'll say that. But no, seriously, like if you're Matthew Slater for the New England Patriots, or you're New England Patriots, Seth, and you get selected to the Pro Bowl, and then they announce they're killing special teams the year you get in.
I guess it's hard to say. Offhand, I'd say maybe it doesn't bother me so much. It's just something that goes on my credentials. My agent can use it to get me a better contract. But what really? Like, nobody's really going out there and playing that hard in the Pro Bowl. It's just a free trip to Hawaii. And as a special teamer, it's just nice to be recognized for your contribution.
You just sit on the sidelines going, thanks. I like my face.
Yeah, they should just say, hey, you're an all-star. Now take your own trip wherever you want to go.
Exactly.
There's not going to be a game.
Go with your family. Have some time off. You didn't make the Super Bowl.
I'm sure there are some massive parties out there in Hawaii.
I'm sure.
Right, exactly. The players enjoy it. I'm sure they absolutely love it.
Of course.
But us viewing people that are making no attempt whatsoever to make a tackle and just watching the score go up and up and up.
Yeah, I know.
Televise the parties. That's what I want. I would rather see that. I would rather see Richard
Uncensored
Sherman get
parties
drunk and talk to Michael Crabtree.
That would be amazing. Speaking of all-stars, though, the NFL does it so poorly. We said hockey does it well. The NBA in recent years, with the additions of like their skills competitions and the horse for a couple of years, they're trying things out. But let's talk about the all-star selection process. They just announced the starters. Zach, do you want to go over this? Because there's some clear, just really, really poor voting here.
The fan voting just drives me absolutely nuts.
Who are these fans? Are they educated
fans? It drives
fans?
me off the wall. I don't understand it. Kobe Bryant played how many games?
Yeah, Kobe Bryant is I think this year they changed the format. Two guards and like 3 front court players, I guess. There's basically 3 forwards on each team.
And there's so many people that just are getting screwed out of the starting lineup.
Yeah, let's go over each lineup real quickly. In the East, it's Irving, D. Wade, who shouldn't be there, LeBron James, Paul George, Carmelo, who's probably should be there but not really. And in the West, we got Curry. Thank God they actually put him in. Kobe clearly shouldn't be there. Durant, Griffin, and Love.
Come on, Kobe's the biggest superstar in basketball.
But these people are voting him as one of the best players in his conference. He played, 4 games?
He's still one of the best players in his conference.
I'm sorry. There are like 5 players that you would I'd
it's
rather
about
put
who has the
spot.
year. It's about who's playing the best. If he's not playing, he shouldn't get voted in.
Yeah.
He's still the best.
All right, how many players could you name to put in Kobe's spot that are much better? You got Harden, you got Westbrook, who played, I know, not as many games, but still he actually had an impact. Yeah, Paul played a ton. He got injured recently.
What about, say you made this argument for baseball, and a guy like Derek Jeter was hurt for half of the first half of the season.
That's
you still
half.
Wouldn't vote him in?
First of all, that's half.
Yeah, that's
There's
half.
actual numbers that you can see. Kobe doesn't have any numbers.
I think it was 4 games played. I think he has 20 total points on the season.
They were working his way in. His numbers are absolutely terrible. Derek Jeter playing half a year, those are actually some numbers, some averages that you can see.
All right, fine. So say Derek Jeter plays 4 games. He's still Derek Jeter.
No,
Nothing's changed.
Okay, in recent years, we've seen Yao Ming get in when he didn't play. We've seen Shaq get in when he didn't play.
It's a popularity contest.
Yes, it is a popularity. That is what we're arguing.
It's exactly
it has nothing to do with,
what's wrong with that?
well, he's the best player. He was out for the year. He didn't play. Who cares?
Okay.
He didn't play. Somebody else.
You want to see the biggest stars in the game.
We're not going to see Kobe Bryant in the game.
That's the problem. He's not playing, and you vote him in? Like, come on.
It's just an honor thing.
But
and I do believe that all of the players that we just mentioned, Harden, Paul, Westbrook, would have all had better numbers than Kobe anyways because Kobe just isn't producing like that anymore.
Yeah, where's
but if he was, then at least you could say, all right, he deserves a nod. He's going to get the nod anyways, blah, blah, blah. But the fan voting is absolutely crazy.
Where's Jeremy Lin? Didn't the Asian contingent come out?
Yeah, no, seriously. If we do think about it, Houston's Asian contingency voting in Yao Ming. Well, yeah, where is Jeremy Lin?
That's what I'm saying.
I thought you were joking with that. I was like, no,
I'm serious.
That makes sense. How was he not in the All-Star game last year or the year before?
This is the problem. This is the problem that we're even talking about.
That is very true. All right, let's skip to something that's actually happening right now. We did talk about Kobe Bryant. He's not playing, but his team is actually playing right now. Like I said, on StarFantasyLeagues.com, there's a 2-game NBA set that happened tonight. On Thursday every week, we have a $50 NBA free roll. We have one on Tuesday as well. So tonight's a big night for free roll. If you want to play for free, sign up at StarFantasyLeagues.com. Build a team, win your share of $50, basically.
It's time you get on NBA. I read a tweet today. Somebody was talking about that they just absolutely loved Daily Fantasy NBA, and they weren't even that big of an NBA fan. It's just so much fun.
That
wasn't me.
No, it definitely wasn't.
It definitely wasn't you. You don't know what you're saying.
What's a Twitter?
Oh my God. The Twitter is at SFL Show, Seth. That's actually how you get a hold of us.
Hey,
look at that. You did it. That's nice of you. No, but seriously, we got a 2-game. Talk about the differences between when you have a 2-game set in daily fantasy as opposed to like a full slate.
I mean, you can't really look at matchups. One.
Yeah, because there's
because you only have so many players to pick from. You're going to make the best lineup you can, mostly regardless of the matchups. Of course, you're looking at point totals and stuff like that and over-unders, but you're trying to pick the best lineup you can regardless. And it's also hard when you're like, okay, well, this is an 11-point spread. It might be a blowout, so I shouldn't pick this team at all. When you have 2 teams, you're gonna have people from both teams no matter what.
Yeah, you kind of have to, right? You can't just pick 6 guys from the Heat because it's just not going to work. Although tonight D-Wade's not playing, so you hypothetically could pit like 6 Heat if you really wanted to.
That's absolutely true.
And
you could pick Ray Allen tonight.
I actually, that's somebody I got.
Yeah,
I got somebody named Ray Allen in my lineup tonight. Look at that. I do. It's nice.
I think my lineup's going to be your lineup.
Most likely. Who'd you get in though? Did you go?
Okay.
Remember the other day you said you went for value first, and then you went for your big guys. Did you do the same thing with a four game set?
I went for a couple sneaky value picks tonight.
Ooh, sneaky value picks.
We got 2 centers up. I mean, actually, I think one of my value picks is a given. I think if you don't have him in your lineup, you don't have a winning lineup tonight. Ryan Kelly.
You were about to say you're an idiot, weren't you? I saw your face. You're like, I want to call them idiots.
If you don't, I'm disappointed in you.
There you go. Perfect.
And I advise you not. I advise you not to do so.
It's like my dad after graduation. I'm just disappointed in you. No, I'm sorry, Dad. He's probably listening. I'm very sorry for that.
Yeah, well, your dad's an idiot.
Oh,
shots fired.
Kitna.
Okay.
Right. So who'd you get? You got
Ryan
your
Kelly, who's getting over 30 minutes a game. Obviously, Mike D'Antoni with his minutes can get completely out of control. You don't know who he's putting in, but Ryan Kelly's becoming a consistent part of the offense. He's at 5,200, so I had him in. My other low guy is at center, and that is Anthony Randolph, who's at 5,100. Got 21.75 points last game. Bunch of injuries on Denver. It looks like he's going to keep getting some time.
That team's a revolving door.
And for some reason, Kenneth Faried hasn't been getting a lot of minutes lately. Mozgov hasn't been getting a lot of minutes.
They're trying things.
And they're going to look athletic in a game like this, I think. And Anthony Randolph is solid athleticism-wise.
So who'd you get in there for the big guys?
Aldridge.
Yeah, Aldridge is an absolute must.
A must. I like him over LeBron.
Yep. LeBron won't play. I don't feel like he won't play more than 35 minutes.
Right.
He should be done by the end of the third.
I got Pau
LeBron's a real
Gasol.
stinker.
What? We're not.
I'm talking about Pau Gasol right now.
I would say quickly get in your last couple guys for
Pau Gasol. I got in at 16,000. Absolutely dominant. Miami centers. I mean, is there even a center?
No, they don't have a center. One more before we kick off.
Also got Chris Bosh in there because LA's weak down low as well.
I completely agree. When we come back, we're going to talk about our fantasy picks from the NFL preseason. You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
Play fantasy sports for cash prizes. Join the top daily and weekly fantasy leagues in the country at starfantasyleagues.com. Now, back to the Star Fantasy League show with Jonathan, Zach, and Seth.
We are back on the Star Fantasy League show, and we are talking fantasy accountability. We talk about these experts and their picks and these sleepers and all this stuff they talk about before the season. But once the season actually happens and it's over, you only hear from them if they had a great sleeper that pulled through. What we're doing here on the Star Fantasy League show is we're talking about all of our preseason picks. We do the can't miss, can't wait to drop, and no one saw them coming for every single NFL team. Today we're going over the AFC South and what each of us said before the season started, whether it's good or bad. I feel like that's a good thing to do, right, guys?
I wasn't very pleased with my AFC East picks, so I'm hoping looking back on this it'll be a little bit better.
Yeah, Zach, you had really bad picks.
Because anybody produced in the AFC East.
I thought I had some pretty good picks.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, all through.
No.
I've been nailing it in the beginning.
No.
Yeah, it's pretty easy when it's you, huh? You're just so good. All right, let's start off with the team that was supposed to do well and be a Super Bowl frontrunner and got the number 1 pick. The Houston Texans. They are just a giant disappointment, right?
I wasn't surprised. Gary Kubiak should have been fired like 4 years ago. I'm sorry that he had the health issue this year.
I said that too.
But, regardless, it needed to happen. They needed to change a long time ago.
Is Sage Rosenfeld still on that team?
I don't
know.
No, he is not.
Is it possible to fire a head coach and a quarterback together? I think Schaub and Kubiak should have gone
Don't you think when Schaub got pulled, Rosenfels would have been starting?
I don't know.
No. Keenum was interesting. Whatever. It doesn't matter. All right, so our can't misses, it was basically either Andre Johnson or Arian Foster. Seth, who'd you have?
I had Arian Foster.
Did you?
Come on. He's the guy on that team that you really couldn't miss.
Until he got injured, it wasn't he was pretty solid.
Yeah, he put together some great games.
Yeah.
Arian Foster was one of my flop picks of the year because I thought he was going to get injured. Sometimes you predict things like that, Seth.
Well,
is that why?
This was
sometimes when a guy has injury concerns, you're on the lookout for it.
How about that stock that Arian Foster launched? That panned out really good for him and not so good for the business.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was a weird time for him to get that, right? He
It
got
was
injured.
a terrible
then he
timing
had,
for his
some legal
injury,
troubles. Yeah, we're going to move on from that real quick.
Andre Johnson, monster year.
Yeah.
May have lost half a step, but who cares? He's a monster.
He missed a couple games. And
He's
still
a beast.
He put up huge numbers.
Yeah, he did great regardless of who was throwing to him.
Okay, and a reason that my can't wait to drop was DeAndre Hopkins is because when you put nobody across from Andre Johnson, it's just going to boost up Andre Johnson even more.
Yeah, I
This guy
agree.
was a
And if
flop.
you look at the numbers over the years for rookie wide receivers, it usually doesn't pan out that well until the second or third year. If you look at like Alshon Jeffrey, breakout year.
I can't wait until we get into some St. Louis Rams talk because Seth is just chopping at the
Oh,
bit
my
to talk
goodness.
about it.
Well, at least I was right with this one. My can't wait to drop was Matt Schaub.
Ugh, Matt Schaub.
I definitely came through on that.
Yeah,
Even though he went undrafted.
we had in our 2 QB league he was drafted.
Well, of course, two QBs.
I don't want him in a 2 QB
I
league.
picked up Josh Freeman early in the season in one of my 2 QB leagues, and
This
that
is
did not
true.
pan out for me.
That is
to
very
say the
true.
least.
Yeah, we
And then he got traded, and there was hope. Oh, no, there wasn't.
I dropped him long before that.
Zach and I universally panned rookie wide receivers. It's not something you should ever go out on a limb for, especially when they were getting drafted as high as they were this year. Like Patterson, Hopkins, they shouldn't even have been drafted, and they're going in the 13th round. It's like, nope, I will wait on the waivers. Thank you.
Yeah, people go for those sleeper running backs every year, and it just usually doesn't work out, especially when, Tavon Austin didn't really work out.
Yeah, no.
Devon Austin had a good end of the season, though.
No, but he was drafted 70th. You can't.
And it was
true.
a couple good games. It was, everybody was dropped. He was dropped across the board at that
I'm
point.
going to be embarrassed when we talk about the Rams
Yes, you
because I
will.
was real high on Tavon
All right,
Austin.
no one saw him coming. Zach and I were kind of right. We said Ben Tate. You actually came out and said, I think Arian Foster is going to get injured. That's why I'm high on Ben Tate.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Ben Tate on the block in this offseason. I think he would be a great fit with a team like the Cleveland Browns who really need help at running back.
You need a bruiser.
Yeah, I think that, he fit really well into that offense. And I'd really like to see Brian Hoyer come back and see what he can do in that offense, too, unless they draft a quarterback.
Are we talking about the AFC North right now?
That was just, it's on my mind.
Well, they grabbed the Bills' defensive coordinator today.
They did. They
now that
signed
we're
him.
on the Browns.
Yeah, that's a weird transition to go from the Bills to the Browns.
And we all know that the Rochester and Buffalo to Cleveland drive is really just not that long.
Yeah, right. Seth knows quite a bit about that from hell.
Misery.
All right, let's move on to the Indianapolis Colts. It was pretty much of a consensus across the board. It was either Andrew Luck or Reggie Wayne. Or
I was so disappointed when Reggie Wayne went down.
That was just depressing.
He's one of those guys that, regardless of age, just continues to produce, and it was just unfortunate that he got injured. And really, the reason that he got injured was because of an off throw, which was
from
brutal.
a guy that was really consistent this year.
Early in the season, I thought Kobe Fleener was going to have one of that. No one saw. Oh well, I guess we're not quite there yet, are we?
Man, Seth is one of those guys who sees a format. We actually have a format on the show where I write out a rundown, and Seth looks at it and goes, "I'm not following."
Maybe
that.
you should go off on another really bad tangent.
Yeah, for 28 minutes.
Because everybody loves listening to that.
You want to see my bananas?
Actually, you know what? For Can't Wait to Drop, we all said Ahmad Bradshaw right before he got injured because nobody believed in that guy. Let's move on from him. He's just terrible. But I do want to mention, since you did name Kobe Fleener as a no one saw him coming, Footer decided to go the other way and said Dwayne Allen.
Why?
Exactly. That's exactly what on our podcast. I
And
said exactly
Matt Footer
that.
is one of our guest hosts from time to time, and sometimes I just don't know what you're thinking, Footer. I just don't get it.
He's probably listening. What's up, Foot? How you doing?
Yeah, he really dug down deep for that one and failed miserably.
Dwayne Allen.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. We all have to say Ty Hilton. Forgot to say that. There we go. Just need to throw that.
What a
in
year he had.
there. Yeah. Although
That's not sarcasm. He had a great year.
no, he had a great year, but
Yeah, he did.
I owned him early, and I couldn't find the time to start him for the first 6 to 8 weeks. As soon as Reggie Wayne went down, I'm like, you're permanently.
I tried to
fixture.
make a trade to get T.Y. Hilton from you, and
Yep.
you wouldn't bite. I actually almost traded you Calvin Johnson after his knee got hurt. I'm so glad I did not do that.
Yeah, that was an interesting trade. But anyways, let's move on to a team that was just atrocious everywhere for most of the season. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Can't misses. Who do we got, guys?
Cecil Shorts, for me, he was the most targeted wide receiver in football for, I guess, the first half of the season before Justin Blackman came back, and then
went away.
Nothing
quickly.
happened. No touchdowns, no nothing, because he had just a terrible quarterback throwing to him. But I really thought he was going to put together a good season regardless.
Yeah, for the same reason. The Blackman thing, I was all over Cecil Shorts for the first couple weeks, and then as soon as Blackman came out, I kind of wavered, and then he just really never came back. He just kind of hung around mediocre status and went into obscurity, basically.
Yeah, I went with MJD, which
I mean,
could have been worse.
Where he was getting drafted, he's still not. Towards the end of the season, he came on.
Yeah,
nobody on that team was fantasy relevant.
That's why we're not really talking about it.
And that's why we had such difficulty talking about it.
Same with the Jets.
Can't wait to drop. Two of us, Footer and Zach, both said anyone on the team.
Yeah, I mean, that's about right.
It's an absolutely miserable offense. Yep. There is no hope.
Blaine Gabbert. I mean, what's going to happen in Jacksonville this year?
Someone not named Blaine Gabbert will probably be starting at quarterback.
Yeah, they're definitely going to take a pick.
They have to.
They will.
Here's my real quick tangent. Who do you think fits on that team of the quarterbacks?
What?
What rookie quarterback do you think would fit that system?
I don't know, man. It's so hard. You never know what they're going to do in Jacksonville. They pick
maybe they'll get Johnny Football.
I was just going to say, I think
he'll pull a Blaine Gabbert.
I think Manziel should be just drop Buzz. Blaine Gabbert was the most boring draft pick. It's like, oh, he's whatever.
Don't you think Johnny Football is a little bit overrated?
He's overrated, but he'll draw fans. They don't sell tickets They blacked out a couple games.
Yeah, they're about to head to London, so they should probably try to get some people in the seats.
If they cared about tickets, why wouldn't they just bring back Tim Tebow?
Okay, no, you're done. We're moving on.
I'm serious.
I think you bring up Tim Tebow every single show.
No, that was me last time. I brought him up last time.
Well, either way, I can't stand hearing about him anymore. He's not even in the NFL.
No, he's not.
No one saw him coming. I said MJD only because I thought where he was getting drafted, 16th running back overall, that he'd be some interesting production, I guess. From where it is.
That's coming. That's pretty much what the offensive line said every single game. And what Blaine Gabbert said every single game coming up from the ground.
That's true. He did kind of sleep. He slept on the ground quite a bit.
I don't even want to talk about this. This was hopeless.
Zach said Mercedes Lewis. Moving on.
I wonder how many listeners we just lost talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
We're not going to pick it up talking about the Tennessee Titans, guys, are we?
Maybe.
Actually, no. I mean, there were a lot of funny things. Footer decided to say Chris Johnson for all of them. Can't miss, can't wait to drop, and no one saw him coming.
Seems about right,
and
too.
It turns out that he was right. Chris Johnson had one of those years where I described he has the 15 rushes for 20 yards and then breaks a 70-yard pass.
You can't say can't wait to drop. He had a big year.
A big year.
He had a legitimate year.
A big year for the Titans
relative to last year and the year before.
People pull their hair out when they talk about Chris Johnson. It's like, what did he do to me? How did he screw me? He's the guy. That's the guy who always.
I had him on one of my teams. He produced.
I got to say, Jake Locker looked amazing in the games that he did play.
In comparison,
I agree. Jake Locker has a future in the NFL.
See, I don't like that. People kept saying, yeah, he played well when he was there. Then they're like, is he the future? He keeps getting injured. Who cares? He played really well.
Fitzpatrick also looked okay in the Titans.
Oh my God. I cannot believe you are bringing this up.
He did. He looked all right.
That's ridiculous.
I actually think Zach is going to hit you.
I'm very upset with you right now.
If you can't see Zach's face, it looks like he's about to have an aneurysm.
The reason that Ryan Fitzpatrick became the Bills starter is exactly because of what you're saying. Exactly.
What?
He had a few good games, and that was it. Let's take him on. Let's go crazy with him.
Well, that's how Matt Castle
and
became
let's give him a contract. Matt Castle became a starter because he ran the easiest offense in the league for a long time.
Let's wrap up this nice tangent here.
Screen pass offense.
Zach and I actually high-fived on our show when we were talking about our can't wait to drop for the Tennessee Titans because it was a consensus. We didn't even think he'd be in the league by the end of the year. Kenny Britt.
Dual injury and off-field issues. He doesn't have any of what he used to have in terms of speed. His knees are busted.
That's exactly what you said before.
And he's got all sorts of problems when it comes to being off the field.
How many bagels did he have this year? I think it was like 9. That's bad.
Brutal.
Yeah, we talked about him as a disappointment every single week. And to wrap it all up in a nice little package, no one saw him coming, Zach. Go ahead. This is your
Kendall Wright, baby. I had him on almost every single team.
Yeah, you said that on the show. You said this is my ultimate sleeper for the year. You're getting him like in the last couple rounds of every draft you made.
Sometimes you just see a guy early on and you say, this guy can be a stud. He's tall, he's fast, he's consistent, he doesn't drop the ball.
You know what I have to say about that, Zach? Even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes.
Except that Zach was right.
And I won multiple leagues this year. I'm not sure how many you won.
I know, you're a 17-time fantasy football champion.
It should change every show. Zach is a 27-time fantasy champ. All right, guys, when we come back, we're going to talk NBA for tomorrow. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
The Star Fantasy League show is now part of the Nick Bonsanto Show. Information is key to being a successful fantasy team owner, and the guys have all the updated info you need right now.
Welcome back to the Star Fantasy League show. Since Friday is one of the most glorious NBA days during the season, I love Fridays. They are amazing. You get to watch a bunch of games. I believe we have 13 on the docket for tomorrow, so we have a bunch of things to analyze.
And $2,000 in guaranteed contests.
Oh, that's exciting. We got $2,000 up for grabs guaranteed on StarFantasyLeagues.com. Is that right, Seth?
That's right, Donald.
That's not too bad. And also, before we get into any kind of analysis, I'd like to... Zach kind of teased it yesterday, but we did put up the custom and private games feature on Star Fantasy Leagues. You can go in there if you want to just play with your friends. You create your own league, however much you want to play. If you want to play $1 with your friends, you want to play $100 with your friends, you just set up the league, put a password on it, have your friends join. The best part is, if it doesn't fill, if you only have 9 of 10, you can open it to the public anytime you want. So you can get your friends and a couple new friends if you want to.
It's awesome. Any number of entry fees, any number of entries, and so many different contest types to choose from.
Especially for tomorrow. You can go all over the place. You can start at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock. But anyways, that's something for our listeners to get involved with. Definitely check us out, StarFantasyLeagues.com. If you want to learn NBA, if you want to play NBA, that's the place to do it. But we do have a huge slate tomorrow, Zach. Let's get into it. What's your general thoughts on looking at a slate this large? Because this is about as big as it gets on football. Excuse me, on basketball.
Yeah, there's so many options, and to look at, I start by looking at the favorable matchups and taking players from that team, or at least looking players from that team, looking at their history, how they've done before. Obviously, it's a big asset if you're able to see players that have already played the team that they're facing so far that year.
Especially with interdivision rivals, too. They play, 4 times a season, so you get to see quite a bit of their matchup, especially, we're 30-something games into the season?
Yep.
It's about that time. But what constitutes a favorable matchup for you when you're looking at fantasy? Just for the listener who hears the word favorable matchup and they don't really understand exactly what makes it favorable.
Well, you're looking at just, in general, bad defenses, teams that score a lot of points, teams that score a lot of points per possession, teams that give up a lot of points, stuff like that. My big matchup tomorrow night is the Raptors against the 76ers. And pretty much a staple throughout the entire NBA season so far is that players that are going up against the 76ers produce. So
I'd like to supplement that by saying when you look at the defensive rankings against every position, Philadelphia, this is their stat line against every position. They're 30th against point guards, 29th against shooting guards, 30th against small forwards, 27th against power forwards, and 29th against centers. That's bottom 5 in the league in every single defensive position. That's bad.
They're absolutely brutal.
They just give up points upon points to everybody. It's not just like, oh, go ahead, have some point guards. Nope, it's every position.
And they've already played the 76ers this year, so you have a lot to look at. When they had their first matchup, DeMar DeRozan got 27, 5, and 6. 27 points, 5 assists, 6 boards. Terrence Ross, who you're looking at as a value pick as it is, because he's had some inconsistencies, but he can provide a big spark at shooting guard. He's 24, 5, and 5 against them this year. Also, Amir Johnson had a great game against them with 17 points and 10 rebounds. Even Valanciunas, I don't even know how to say that. I can't even get that name.
Jonas Valanciunas.
Valanciunas.
I don't know. You think I actually know?
Yeah, I actually have no idea.
I think that is it.
But everybody in that game as a starter had a good game except Kyle Lowry,
who we expect to. He is.
I'm sure he'll do well.
He's a guy we should have talked about earlier for a snub. I think he's definitely an all-star this year.
And he had an 0 for 10 night last night, I believe. And
he was the only guy.
I'm sure he will bounce back from that. DeRozan's role in the offense has gone up since that game when they played against Philadelphia.
Did they have Rudy Gay in that game?
I think they did.
Okay, that might have been a problem. Rudy kills their offense.
Either way, he's gone up game by game in terms of his production. I think he's going to have a great game tomorrow night, and you can probably get him at a decent value. Moving on, there are some injuries out there tomorrow, which I absolutely love.
That's an understatement.
Injuries are when you can thrive because you can look at players that are substituting for the players that got injured and really take advantage of it. One of them is for the Hawks. Pero Antic is out. See, we got another name like that.
I'm not even going to touch him.
We got another name like that.
Antic, sure.
Antic, whatever.
We're fantasy experts. We don't pronounce things. We're not spelling the people. No.
Despite the fact that they're matched up against the Spurs, I think Mike Scott, who has been producing anyways, will get some extra minutes off the bench. and Paul Millsap should end up having a better game.
I would say Paul Millsap at his current value is going to do everything in that game.
Yeah, Paul Millsap had a monster game last night. He should continue to produce, but they're going to rely upon him even more.
Actually, looking at that matchup, since there's no Horford, since there's no Ontic, we need scoring in that game. I actually think Jeff Teague is an interesting option because San Antonio is 24th against the point guard position. Tony Parker doesn't really enjoy, playing defense that much.
I agree with you. Unfortunately, Jeff Teague drives me absolutely crazy because of his inconsistencies.
It doesn't look like Tony Parker enjoys much of anything, by the way.
Why? Are you going to?
He just has one of those faces.
Have you heard his interviews? He enjoys Greg Popovich very much. He loves Greg Popovich.
That makes perfect sense right there. They're cut from the same cloth, I guess.
Now for the Spurs, you got Kawhi Leonard that's out.
Yep.
And Danny Green has been out. So I think you're looking at Bellinelli and Ginobili getting a bunch of minutes. Those two can be good options against the Hawks, who tend to give up a lot of points anyways. The Spurs also this year haven't been that great defensively as you're usually accustomed to seeing.
They're an offensive. You don't really expect them to be an offensive juggernaut. They kind of have
a lot more this year than they have been. Yes. Yep.
Completely agree with that. All right, what other matchups are you targeting? Are those the two games you basically are looking to get, 3-4 players total from?
Maybe. I really like that Raptors game. I'm also looking at the Timberwolves-Warriors game.
Why? Because Minnesota also does not know how to play defense?
It should involve tons of scoring. Klay Thompson went for 30 points against them last time they played. Curry, who didn't have such a good game, should bounce back big this time. Obviously, you're looking at a pretty high amount of spend to choose Curry, but I still think he'll have a great game. It's going to be on NBA TV, which is nice. Obviously, that's not ESPN.
70 people will end up watching.
Yeah, obviously that's not ESPN, so you're not looking at the same primetime upside as when players get fired up for being on the main channels. But also, the Pacers and Kings game I'm also interested in. One, because of injuries. Rudy Gay is going to be out for sure. They've already announced that.
What about DeMarcus Cousins? Though?
DeMarcus Cousins could be out.
They said day-to-day on him. So I'm kind of – these are another thing. You can take our information now. We're not being 100% specific for when games start tomorrow. You have to pay attention to injuries. You have to pay attention to exactly what's happening before the games tip off.
I really think he's going to be out tomorrow night. He's day-to-day. I think they'll rest him for at least a game. And in comes Jason Thompson and Derek Williams.
Derek Williams the other night, what was he doing? What 22 and 11?
He plays great off the bench when he can get the minutes, and I think this will be advantageous for them. Sometimes you can look at the Kings, who like to go with a small lineup from time to time, but matched up against the Pacers, you got Paul George, you got David West, you got Roy Hibbert.
Yeah, you can't play small against that team.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way that both Thompson and Derek Williams don't get a ton of minutes.
Who would you prefer? I'm assuming Derek Williams is much cheaper.
I would prefer Derek Williams, and that's the reason for that.
But if you have the money to spend on someone like Jason Thompson,
yeah, Thompson has been nearing double-doubles in the past 3 or 4 games. So I think they're both good picks. I really do. And Paul George in this game without Rudy Gay guarding him, there's really nobody that can defend him with Rudy Gay out of the lineup.
Let's be honest, nobody can defend. They're pretty bad against every position. They're another team that's in the bottom 10 and basically everything except center because DeMarcus is really good.
He's taller than guys like Thornton or Thomas, who's obviously not going to be guarding him.
Thornton's a tiny little guy.
He's taller than anybody that they can put in that can keep up with him, and he's faster than anybody they can put in that can size up with him.
But is this a game you might have the blowout potential, though?
Of course.
I feel like that could – because Indiana, they love to play the slow pace and keep it low scoring, but then all of a sudden they'll have these 104 to 101 games, and you're just like, where'd this come from?
Didn't the Pacers just get blown out by the Suns?
They did. And that was one of those games.
How does that happen?
Anything can happen in the NBA. And that's why,
anything can happen.
Especially when you're looking at a team who has an unfavorable line against them, which I'm sure this game will be, the Kings are still at home. And I prefer risking a little bit by taking the home team in these types of matchups. And when you have low guys that are coming in from injury, sometimes they end up getting extra minutes anyways because they want to give them some extra playing time.
That makes plenty of sense.
I have a bone to pick with you, Zach.
Oh, baby, we got a bone.
This is probably going to be terrible.
No,
I just want to warn everybody. This could be a terrible comment.
You know, we talked a while back when we were talking about football on other shows, and I said, primetime players show up in primetime games. And you looked at me like I had 3 heads, and you said the primetime has nothing to do with how players show up. And you know what? I couldn't disagree with that more. And you just said now that, they're on NBA TV, but it's no primetime, and players like to come out in the primetime and perform.
Do you want me to bestow some knowledge upon you?
Yeah, let's drop
How many games do they play in the NFL?
Oh, at least 4.
Okay, multiply that by 4, and you'll get the right
thank
amount.
you for math, Seth. That was good.
In the NBA, they play 82 games. That means from night to night, they're playing 3 or 4 games a week, every single week. And these guys, whether you like it or not, take nights off from time to time. They don't play as hard on some nights. When it's a Thursday night matchup in primetime, a Friday night matchup on ESPN, these guys get pumped up, especially when it's against a heavily competitive team. How can you not understand that?
I'm not saying I don't understand it. I'm saying I don't understand
Well, I'm saying that is the reasoning behind that. In the NFL, you must win every game that you possibly can.
Seth, how did you bring in an NFL conversation to our NBA breakdown for
Because
Friday?
everything revolves around football.
You know what? You are just in a deep depression. We are actually talking.
It's horrible.
We're talking
Really
on the
is
Star
horrible.
Fantasy Leagues about Friday Fantasy on StarFantasyLeagues.com. Tweet us at SFL Show if you'd like some assistance on your Friday lineups. We'd be more than happy to answer any fantasy questions you have about lineups, salaries, anything. You want to learn how to create a custom league? Ask us. We'll tell you. It's the best new feature we have in a while.
I got another question for you.
Oh, goody.
And it's a football question.
Oh, my God. How are you doing this?
But it has something to do with basketball. If you had to pick one player from the NFL that's not Jimmy Graham to put on your NBA lineup, who would you pick?
Antonio Gates?
Well, besides Antonio Gates.
See, no, this is such a... Zach is looking at you.
Can we move on from this?
Yeah, I'm perfectly okay.
Thank you for introducing some really bad questions.
Let's say we have a few more minutes. Get your final parting thoughts in. Maybe your top play for tomorrow, or your top value pick, or some other guys that you just want to watch out for going into tomorrow's lineup creation.
If you're looking at the top guys across the board, which there are a lot of them, Kevin Love has had a little rough patch, which set his salary back just a little bit.
From, 24 to,
to 21? Yeah. But I think he is in play tomorrow for sure. David Lee might not play. They still don't know yet.
That would be a very big injury to watch.
He is questionable. Not that David Lee plays great defense anyways.
No, I know, but still for pace and a lot of...
But this should be a really high-scoring game. Love had 25 points, 16 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and a block last game.
That's like a 50. That's a 50-something fantasy point night, right?
Right.
That has to be.
Oh, that's over 50. Yeah. Last game, and this point total is going to be huge. I think there's a lot of players in play. I also think going back to that Philly-Toronto game, Evan Turner, who has been switching his way around the court and playing different positions. Last game, he seemed to really benefit from it, and he had 21, 10, and 4 last time that he went up against Toronto.
Yeah, that's really interesting when you go back and watch, because you're getting this information about previous matchups. That's definitely something you need to look at if it is available.
Absolutely,
and they've been fantasy nuggets.
They've been bringing down Michael Carter's minutes just a little bit.
Michael Carter Williams.
Michael Carter. Did I just say Michael Carter?
Yes, you did.
Okay, MCW. How about that? We'll just go with that.
Syracuse product.
They've been bringing down his minutes a little bit. Evan Turner's being relied upon to run the point a little bit more with Tony Roten out. I think he should have another great game. He had another one. He had one last night.
So you're saying for tomorrow, that's one of your. You seem like you're pumped up about Evan Turner tomorrow.
I am. I think Evan Turner is going to have a good game. His value has come down from earlier in the year because he had a really rough patch, but they're really depending on him right now. I think the Raptors and 76ers game, as well as the Timberwolves-Warriors game and Pacers-Kings game, are all games that you should target.
Don't the Raptors drive you nuts with their inconsistency, though?
Oh, man, they're
Raptors.
Right, before we wrap this up, do you want to go out on the limb and say Evan Turner is your big pick for tomorrow?
Okay, Evan Turner, big pick, value pick. One more, no? Brandon Knight.
Okay, Brandon Knight. All right, that'll wrap it up. You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on the Nick Monsanto Show here on the Sports Byline USA Network. Contact the StarFantasyLeagues.com guys via Twitter at SFL Show.
You heard the voiceover guy. Send us some tweets at SFL Show, and that will wrap up another lovely edition of this.
So turn off your radio.
Yeah, you can't do that every episode. That's just strange. People aren't going to turn off their radio.
Unacceptable.
Yeah. You are not entertaining, Seth. You are just poor.
Don't turn your radio off.
Yeah.
Keep your radio on.
Listen to the silky smooth voice of Seth Young.
My voice is silky.
You're uncomfortable. This whole thing is uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie. You interjecting with weird fantasy questions that have no relevance. This is what Seth Young does in the StarFantasyLeagues.com offices. He's always coming in.
These are the things that I want to know.
If Paul George is the Paul George of the NBA,
who is the Paul George of
Bowling.
We actually
Do you know any pro bowlers?
No.
I don't know any pro bowlers.
Okay, in our office today, we have a new projector we were fooling around with. We saw multiple commercials on ESPN for bowling that had, like, hip-hop music, and we were trying to have a correlation between people who listen to hip-hop and people who like bowling. Is there any correlation whatsoever?
Maybe they're looking for a new clientele.
I don't think so. It's all, like, old white women. That's what in the crowd, that's all you see. But anyways, let's get to something relevant. Seth, break us down what we have going on StarFantasyLeagues.com.
Well, we're adding fantasy bowling really soon.
We are definitely. Pete Weber is not going to be on our site.
We launched the great custom game feature today, and if you missed us talking about it, it allows you to create your own game. You can password protect it and invite your friends to play against you. So you don't have to hunt for games. It's really cool. You should check it out at StarFantasyLeagues.com. And
also, we have a 100% to $500 deposit bonus if you want to put money on and start playing NBA. If you took all of Zach's advice, it's SFL Show.
And that means that if you deposit $100 on the site, we'll match it in bonus cash up to $100. So if you want to deposit $500, which is the maximum bonus, we will give you $500 in cash that you can unlock as you play.
And we still have the offer on the table. If you tweet us, we will give you free credits in your account. No strings attached on StarFantasyLeagues.com. All right, guys, I'm going for it. If you can't pronounce Jonas Valanciunas' name, we'll help you make a better lineup next time. Have a good night.
Good night.